Muito boa tarde, bem-vindos mais uma vez a este seminário e neste terceiro segmento, se assim poderemos dizer, iremos falar sobre a intervenção psicológica à distância e desenvolvimento profissional contínuo. Neste sentido, teremos o prazer de ouvir a conferência Practitioner, competences and ethical issues in use of information and communication technologies in career guidance. E para nos falar sobre este tema e diretamente da Finlândia, teremos Raimo Vuorinen e Jaana Kettunen, do Finnish Institute for Education Research da Universidade de Jyväskylä. Se estão a acompanhar esta conferência via Zoom, podem ouvir a tradução em português. Para isso, basta clicar no globo que vai aparecer ou que já aparece no vosso rodapé. Eu não sei... Welcome, Raimo and Jaana. Jaana, your sound is off.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Raimo, Jaana, first of all, thank you for your presence and sorry for my Finnish accent. Well, the floor, or at least the online floor, is yours for, I would say, 30 minutes. And after your conference, we'll have 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A. Is that okay for you? Okay, yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, bon dia. Dear colleagues, and thank you very much for this invitation and greetings from Jyväskylä, central Finland. So we still have winter and snow here, but I think we can manage the session through this internet. And I hand over to Jaana.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jaana Kettunen, and it's great pleasure to be part of this conference.
Thank you. And during the next 30 minutes, we will be covering the key issues on the use of technology. But before that, we want to highlight some information about the study that we conducted with international colleagues starting from last year. So we all know that we have been now suffering this COVID-19 pandemic and almost over 1 year already at the moment. And last year in April, we didn't know that, we didn't expect that we would still have the situation, but we wanted to collect information how this pandemic has impacted on our service. And this we wanted to ask some countries whether the government paid attention to guidance and whether there was a cooperation between stakeholders. But most importantly, when we found out that many countries were moving online, how to do this. So we were told that we are taking digital leap, but I would say a digital triple jump was the case. And I think triple jump is a good, very famous sport in Portugal. I know that you have good triple jumpers, so how to make this also in the digital world. But this gives a rationale for us, because what we found out that we were asking that what was the service delivery mode before the pandemic, and also whether there was any change in the way how guidance services were delivered. And we found out that most countries were able to maintain the level of services. Only some countries were informing that parts of it was closed. But the most important was that the services were transferred mostly online. But we were able to provide access. But on the other hand, we learned also that vulnerable groups had difficulties, or we were not able always to reach these most vulnerable groups. And this means that we have to pay attention to access before we start talking about digital. Then the other one was that we were asking that which type of services could be maintained. So most of the services were adapted. So this one-to-one dialogue was possible through telephone and through online services like we are doing now. But perhaps some of the most intensive guidance was something that we were not able to provide. But the most key important message for us was that we need to shift from information to more collaborative way of using technology. So the most common has been the information developed previously. And the third question was also that what type of methods are used. And we are often when we are talking about digital or the use of technology in guidance, we are asked that how to use Twitter or how to use Facebook. So we don't at the moment focus so much on tool because the technology is changing. We just look what channels are used or what guidance features we can deliver through these online services. So we all found out that when we talk about technology, telephone and video and emails, those are still valid tools. So the telephone has been available a number of years, but we shouldn't forget the potential of a telephone, especially meeting the vulnerable groups. So when we are developing guidance, we need to, there's a recommendation that we have to ensure that we are using all the different channels when we are providing guidance. So multi-channeling means different ways of providing the services. So to conclude, the topic that we are discussing is more crucial than before. So we have to think in a similar way that technology is having impact on the other professions and labor, let's say, working life. It has implications also how guidance is delivered. So we need to rethink career guidance accordingly. So how to provide access and outreach, and thinking of the different users, how we can sort of meet as wide, let's say, audience as possible. So this is provides the basis how we are thinking of guidance. When we have been conducting research with Jaana now over 20 years on the use of technology and guidance, we have found out that we have different perceptions and attitudes. We have been often asked that, is this guidance when we are talking in the same room, and then we have something separate that is ICT and guidance and technology and guidance? This used to be the questions 20 years ago, but now technology is here and we use it with or without the practitioner. So we need to integrate the technology in the way we work as much as possible.
Raimo,
yep.
Please share the slides now. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I really apologize.
No worries. You are on slides 8 now.
Yes. Apologies, really apologies. I was too eager. But anyway, this is now we come to the real issue. So the question, I take this now. Now you can see the slides. So we can, instead of just distinguishing the, let's say, old traditional guidance one-to-one in the same room and ICT, we need to think what are the guidance functions we can sort of fulfill with the help of technology. So we have found out that career technology can be a tool to assist and enhance and further develop the different ways we have been sort of working previously with our clients and students. So we are partly extending the way, not replacing, but we are complementing and sort of assisting and enhancing, make it more effective. And we are saying that if we can integrate, let's say, take some routines, take care of some routines with the help of technology, we can also enhance the human interaction with clients, because we can allocate the time with those clients who really need our personal support. But it can also be used as an alternative to traditional approaches to previous work. So, for example, in Finland, we have rural areas, so people have to travel perhaps 100 to 150 kilometers to career centers. So with the help of technology, we can widen access and provide alternative ways to provide services for people who have difficulties in getting to the centers. But technology can be also an agent of change. So as I mentioned, we are facing the situation that technology is changing some other professions. It's changing our professions as well. So we have found out that it's not enough that we are trying to shift our previous way of working into technological environment. We have to have this type of reflection, how this technology provides us new methods, new opportunities, but also has put challenges on us. So reflecting and transforming our services according to the needs addressed by the technology as well. Then if we have a big number of clients, number of routine works, we can use technology as an administrative tool, like among others. So client registers, or if we work in educational context, we have administrative software to manage students and curriculum, and also collect data, publish data. So this provides new opportunities. But the most important is that we use technology as an integrative agent, so bringing together different players in the field, bringing together different functions, and if we collect different tools, we can also model this sort of a guidance system with the help of technology, and we can also collect feedback. So when we are talking about technology, it's not only the tools, but during the next slides, we are focusing how to integrate the guidance in technology into this guidance process. And Jaana will continue here.
Thank you, Raimo. When we talk about information and communication technologies, in past years, we have seen an expansion in use of also in social media in our professional practice. Next, please. But when we talk about social media, we often focus on separate individual tools, since the concept is very variedly used. In wider concept, social media, instead of being separate tools, is defined as a process where individuals and groups build a common understanding and meanings with contents, communities, and technologies. This means people have a shared interest or shared question. They come together, they create a community. Already two persons create a community and use this modern technology as a platform to create new knowledge, share understanding, build new understanding. Next. Social media is also defined as a form of communication which makes use of information networks and information technology and deals with content which is created by users in an interactive way and which interpersonal relationships are created and maintained. And this last part of this definition is highlighting the one thing that makes people to use social media in such an extensive level. It is a place where relationships are created and maintained, and through those relationships, they become important when individuals reflect and share also issues that relate their education, careers, and occupational issues. In our research, the results have shown that professionals have 5 different approaches in using information and social media in their professional practices. So we have a passive approach, information approach, communication approach, collaborative career exploration approach, and co-careering approach. Each of the approaches which are in a circle always are included in the next one. We'll go through these different approaches next. So when we have information approach in using ICT in our professional practice, emphasis is typically on technology. So there is a focus on how do we make use of this technology that we have in best way as a means for delivering information. So here the importance of media literature skills is highlighted. As a professionals, to have a good proficiency in locating and evaluating various types of online content and services in a critical and active manner. The ethical issues in this approach often relate to accuracy and validity of the information. As said, in this day, there's so much information available. So how do I make a best knowledge which information is valid and accurate?
This relates then to the how we also take into account the users' perceptions of the information, and the data what Jaana is describing. We have collected the data by interviewing practitioners, how they perceive information and the use of technology. But then if we want to look at the information and the validity and ethical issue which Jaana was highlighting, we can also not only to deliver the information or search it by ourselves, we can also help our clients and students to develop skills which they can use when they are analyzing or searching for data. So they have to look for these quality criteria, that who has written the text, what is the authorship, what is the content, how the data is validated, whether it's reliable, when it's published, is it up to date, who is the owner of the data, who pays for it, and what is the usability, and also whether it meets the ethical standards of our practice. So we are aware that we have some data or information what is published by publishing companies, news or academic journals, but there's a lot of information also that is generated and produced by the internet users. So we need to be aware that we look for these quality criteria. And one of the questions in the ethics was that what is the quality of online services? We can conclude that we can use similar methods of evaluating quality of information that is either printed or digital resources and references.
When we move from information to communication approach, the focus moves on how to use technology to deliver and share information more towards content. So how do we use technology and the information that we have as a medium for one-to-one communication? So this communication can take place asynchronously or synchronously, meaning in real time. Since before the pandemic, there was a lot of the communication took place in such medias like emails, or if we think synchronous, that was a chatting. So then there was a lot of emphasis on online writing skills. So how do I do professional practice? How do I move the expertise that I have in, for example, in communication in written forms? So the ability to write and be a fluent writer online was highlighted. Today, in medium like this, we have a new skill sets that comes when we have a video calls and forms, and so the writing is a one part. It belongs what medium we are, but also new skills that relate. How do we do video calls and professional and communication on these settings? Professionals highlight the proficiency in using various types of online content and services in specific contexts and work settings. So depending on the individuals who I am serving, so that I have a good knowledge of the resources that are available. And as Raimo just previously highlighted, I can evaluate which kind of content, which kind of tools or assignments which support the individual's learning aim or need. Also, professionals highlight the skills. How do we motivate and assist individuals in processing this information or data which we are providing them? So how do we, in online settings, how do we set our questions if they are in written, or how do we set our questions when we communicate in video formats that would motivate and would help individuals to process the information that is provided? Ethical issues in communication approach relate to privacy issues. So if we use different kind of technologies, how do we make sure that the privacy between our conversation is secured? So then leaning on such a tools and having a knowledge which tools are secure enough for which kind of communication. Next. When we move to collaborative career exploration, then emphasis expands not only to content towards the pedagogically focused practice. So we also move from individual or one-to-one mode of working to group settings. So emphasis is now put on methods, techniques, and activities that would foster career learning process and acquisition of career management skills, and expanding from one-to-one settings to group settings. Professionals highlight that there's a number of new opportunities for novel practices, which I'm sure we all have now come quite familiar during the past months, that support increased user engagement with professionals and with tasks and with career information. So I'm sure we all have created a new and learned a new applications or new ways of engaging our groups or individuals, because we were partly forced to. Here, when the emphasis is on pedagogically, professionals highlight also the need to appropriate structuring and active facilitation when we work in group settings in terms of guiding and shaping the discourse with individuals and groups. So when we have a group of individuals and we work in collaborative career exploration, how do we design the learning aim? How do we structure the tasks? Are there written assignments? Are they group assignments? Are they discussions or group discussions? And how do we make sure that we engage all those who might look a little bit lean-backed? So facilitation is a big part of our professional competency highlighted here. Ethical issues relate to confidentiality. When we work in the group settings and in online, it's important for us as the professionals to set the ground rules and go them through with the group that we are working. Sometimes it might be that some persons are not acting so that they would support the group or the group work. And then it also requires some confidentiality from us as the professionals, then maybe suggesting that, well, it might be a more beneficial for you if we would have a one-to-one communication if it looks like the group work is not benefiting you. Next, please. Then the fourth approach, which is co-careering. This is co-careering refers to shared expertise and meaningful co-construction of guidance questions or career-related issues among community members. And there is a certain shift here. This kind of the co-careering takes place mostly in online settings. So individuals make use of those who are around them, those other individuals. They might be friends, colleagues, parents, also career professionals, people who work in the industry. And when they have a question, they might approach, or anyone who is in their networks might be a possible resource as a supporter so that individual can reflect, make decisions, or question his or her the issue that she or he has on his hand. In co-careering, Practitioner is one possible resource and participant on individual's process. The co-careering highlights, or in professional, there is, let me see what it is. Yeah, in co-careering, it is important that a professional has an ability to create a reliable and genuine image of oneself within the communities in which questions are discussed commonly. And this requires mindful, properly managed and monitored online presence. Furthermore, in our own institute or in our own region, this highlights the need for well-structured and well-thought-through professional goals and strategies that fit for those goals. So if we decide to make a presence as a professional in open online settings, it is important to think how and what our aim is to make the presence, and what are the strategies that we work, through what line of strategies we work. Are we to inform individuals? Are we to make ourselves available to individuals or what is the work strategy that we take place? Ethical issues here, they relate to professional proficiency. So how do I make myself, how do we make ourselves visible and so that we look that our practices are professionally proficient in online. And here, part of that is our online presence. So our profile pictures, individual or organization level, profile pages, how do we describe, how do we communicate when we can be reached, in what kind of questions, in short introductions can be described. All pictures, messages, status updates, and our connections and network, they make an image of us. And as individuals seek who would be the institutes, or who would be the professionals, or who would be the persons who could support me. So they seek who could be a possible resources on their co-careering. This is what is part of the how do we appear there. This is a picture that puts the skills and the approaches together, but as time goes on, I'll pass it to Raimo.
Thank you, Jaana. I think the most important thing what Jaana was saying, that when we are using technology, as we started, we said that we need to be aware of the tools, but the technology is changing. So we need to think the guidance functions. And here to sum up, we sort of deepen and widen the scope of our activities. If I'm summarizing this sort of distinction between or merging previous way of doing our work and also the use of technology, I could highlight that first, most important is either the guidance needs. So what are the individual needs, or where's the demand for guidance? And this can be done with self-help or using staff in centers. But then after this, we are then having different ways of guidance. We can have one-to-one guidance or counseling. It can take place in a career center or online. So it's one-to-one dialogue. Then we have some issues which are common to a certain group of people or peers. It can be done in an office or a classroom activities or a center, or using this type of video conferencing tools or Teams, what we have been using at the moment. Or it can be telephone as well, an e-line, emails, chat. And then we go to the bigger groups. That was the group. And then we have this self-help. If we are wanting only the information, and then we can go to websites or online repositories of information, or career center or an office for printed material, but we can also use it online. So distinguishing the guidance function. And these are led by us, but then this collaborative career exploration takes place with or without the help of practitioners. And this means that we need to reflect the previous, let's say, a relationship with our clients and individuals. And I'm using this slide to illustrate that what type of language we are using. It sort of reveals the paradigm what we are having in guidance. First, we have the language and voice of suppliers. If we have education and training, this is the language of the organizations. And then if we provide education and training, our clients or students, they are learning. And now the learning takes place lifelong. It's continuous. We are upskilling and upgrading ourselves throughout our lives with different transitions. So the same language shift also takes place in our work. So if we provide career guidance or counseling, we can say that equivalent voice of users to lifelong learning is careering, or this joint process, co-careering. And sometimes this can be frightening for us because we are used to provide expert information, expert knowledge. It doesn't disappear. We still have it, but it has new type of presence, a new type of online visibility, what Jaana was describing. And the career development takes place among the community members. So then one of the challenges, if we want to increase or better use of technology, take the full potential of the technology in all the roles we described before, using it as a tool, alternative, complementary element, administrative tool, or chain, let's say, integrative element, we need to think also the challenges we have to sort of solve. First one, we have been asking countries what are the challenges, what they are facing. Sometimes the first question is the inadequate access to ICT and technology. And this was quite visible in the COVID study, that some countries, the coverage of internet was better than, or much comprehensive than in other countries. And also the the fees for telephone costs could have been a barrier to the effective use of technology. So as individuals or policymakers, we need to advocate to get proper access to technology, both as suppliers, but also providing access to individual citizens. Second one, is we found out that the data or the national labor market information or education information is not organized or categorized in such way that it's user-friendly. So we have to pay attention to how we provide information available and also help like we said, that help look for the quality criteria of the information. Then something what we can work on, our work is the skills and competencies. We can upgrade our skills in using the technology, but also helping the individuals and our clients not only to solve the questions, but also learning the skills which they can utilize on their own with or without the help of a practitioner. But the most important is the integration of technology in our work. And instead of, I'm repeating myself, instead of different tools, we have to think different features of guidance, different guidance activities and functions, how we can model them with the help of technology. And this is important for the practitioners, but also local authorities and national policymakers to think with how we can bring the guidance elements together with the help of technology. To conclude, we have been now describing the different phases. We have conducted research, but it's possible also to, let's say, have this framework for continuous development. And in our university, with the Nordic cooperation, we have been running online courses and summer schools on the use of technology. So thinking how we can use technology in information, communication and collaboration and this new line presence. So it is possible to integrate the work, the use of technology also in the training of practitioners. So this website provides more information on these applications, what we're trying to promote in practice. Now to conclude, I'm thanking for the attention, and we have now some time for questions which you have been prepared in advance. Obrigado.
Obrigada.
Thank you, Raimo and Jaana. Thank you very much for the insightful presentation and for sharing your vision with us. And as I said before, we still have 5 minutes. I have 3 questions that I'd like to share with you. First one, in your opinion, what is the role of career guidance to promote social inclusion?
I think at this time especially, it's very important because, as mentioned, when we are shifting our focus from the service delivery, we can look at the outcomes. And so I think the outcomes are both the individual outcomes and then let's say the effectiveness of the community. But if we think of the individual outcomes like the agency and the skills to cope with crisis, cope with transition, so the more we can provide the traditional help, but promoting the agency, how people can take advantage of this time when there's perhaps not employment available, but how to improve one's skills. So it correlates with the use, let's say, successful transition. Yeah. So guidance is very important in social inclusion.
And what about sustainability? So what's the role of career guidance to promote sustainability?
I think this goes quite hand in hand. So the sustainability is also the when we often think of the environmental, but it's also the stable society. So we can also narrow the gap by widening access to learning opportunities, upskilling, and helping individuals to, let's say, use their potential. So I think it's also important. It's close to the social inclusion and sustainability, I think.
Yeah. And for the last one, what is the role of career guidance in Green Deal?
It's again very, very close, big questions.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are, I think, this is important. So there are many professions which are focusing on like climate change and use of resources and ecological and also, let's say, sustainable development. So we can, if we provide information about these learning opportunities, guidance is also one way of promoting those opportunities. And of course, now when we're using technology, we can also now we have been traveling, we have saved a lot of travel budget, and that has sort of caused a lot of less pollution. So I think guidance is crucial part of the Green Deal and also the green sustainable economy on the long run.
Just one more question, and you talk about this, but as a summary, which quality criteria should be considered on online intervention? You talk about it, but as a summary.
We have defined some meta quality criteria for guidance. So some of them relate to the supply. For example, the professionalism and the professional delivery is a very big, important quality criteria. But the second one is the outcome. And this relates to social inclusion as well, that how we engage users, how we provide opportunity for the individuals to be engaged in the process, but also in the design of the services. And then this implies the quality criteria are then the added value for individuals and the cost benefits for the government. And if we collect data on the services, how we use this data to continuous improvement. So the main meta criteria for national quality system apply also on technology.
Okay, perfect. Raimo and Jaana, thank you once again for the insightful presentation and for sharing your vision with us. And well, thank you.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Muito bem, vamos avançar agora para as sessões paralelas. Relembro mais uma vez que receberam no passado dia 12 os códigos de acesso. Esses códigos deverão ser utilizados para entrar, isto através do site deste seminário. Se não encontrou os códigos, verifiquem a vossa caixa de spam ou então entrem em contacto com o nosso helpdesk que está no menu contacto do site. Muito bem, iremos ter 5 sessões paralelas em 5 salas diferentes. A primeira, orientação vocacional, os desafios da distância, de Alexandra Figueiredo, da Agência Nacional para a Qualificação e o Ensino Profissional, Inês Nascimento, da Faculdade de Psicologia e de Ciências da Educação da Universidade do Porto. Na segunda sala teremos os desafios e oportunidades de intervenção psicológica baseada em meios digitais, da e-Mental Health para a Psicologia da Educação, de João Salgado, do Instituto Universitário da Maia, enquanto na terceira sala teremos a supervisão e desenvolvimento profissional contínuo com Miguel Ricul, da Faculdade de Medicina da Universidade do Porto. Na sala 4, pessoas à conversa, transição para a vertente digital da intervenção com pais, de Luís Gonzaga, Ana Milheiro, Marques e Vera Sousa, do agrupamento de escolas Fernando Pessoa, de Santa Maria da Feira. E finalmente, na quinta sala, na quinta sessão paralela, será dedicada ao tema promoção da literacia emergente à distância, resultados, desafios e reflexões. Teremos o prazer aqui de ouvir Yolanda Ribeiro, da Escola de Psicologia da Universidade do Minho. Voltamos a encontrar-nos às 16 horas para o debate sobre políticas públicas e educação, com João Costa, secretário adjunto da Educação, e Maria Emília Briderode Santos, Presidente do Conselho Nacional de Educação. A moderação estará a cabo de Maria João Horta, Subdiretora-Geral da Educação, e Sofia Ramalho, Vice-Presidente da Ordem dos Psicólogos Portugueses. Muito obrigado e então até às 16 horas.